Hi everyone, it's Dave and Olive. Thanks for joining us here at Book Blather. We talk a lot of horror, sci-fi, fantasy, but also mix it up with other types of nonfiction and fiction as well. Today we're doing an individual book review, The Girl Next Door by Jack Ketchum. Okay, The Girl Next Door by Jack Ketchum. We read this book at the beginning of last month. This edition is published by 47 North. This was originally published in 1989. If you're a horror fan or a fan of transgressive fiction, you have probably either already read this book or you at least know of it. It's widely considered one of the most disturbing books out there. That's probably true. It is extremely disturbing, but there's also a lot more to this book. So, what is it about? Basically, the story starts out, there's two sisters and their parents die in an accident. The younger sister is very badly injured, and so the two sisters go to live with their aunt Ruth. And Ruth basically runs a household. She has a few kids, a single parent, and when the daughters go to live there, there ends up very soon being a conflict between Ruth and the older sister Meg. And this escalates quickly, and so Ruth has a few sons, and there are also some neighborhood kids. Ruth is kind of, she's the cool parent in town. Her house is kind of the place where all the neighborhood kids gather. She lets them have a beer while they're there. And so under her guidance, when things go bad between Ruth and the older sister Meg, they take her captive. And they start to do painful and humiliating things to her. And over the course of the book, there's just ever escalating forms of torture of this girl Meg. Basically, that's what the story is about, is their torturing of this poor girl. It is horrific. And what makes it even more horrific is this is based actually on a true story. This is a story of Sylvia Likens, who in the 60s had a very similar situation. There's some details that are different between the stories. You know, some are small, like in real life, her parents didn't die. They were traveling carnival workers, and her younger sister hadn't been injured. She had polio, so she was somewhat crippled from that. And And the parents had just boarded her at Ruth's house, and then the payments stopped coming. So small details like that are different, and then there's larger details that are different. Some of the characters are different. There's in the story, Ruth has 3 sons. In real life, she had a bunch of children, but the primary ones involved were actually an older daughter and then a son. And so the neighborhood kids are different, but it's similar in that, there is a group of kids. It's Ruth is the adult, and there are a group of kids that's a mixture of her kids and neighborhood kids. And so, in large part, a lot of the substance of the story is the same as what happened in real life with Sylvia Likens. If you haven't read this yet, don't look that up until you read this, because the stories are very similar, and you don't want to spoil anything for yourself. But so obviously the story was incredibly disturbing, but as I said, this is a type of book that there was a lot more value in this book that, in our opinion, it's a type of book that should be more widely read, but probably can't be because of the subject matter. But it was extremely well written, perfectly paced. Jack Ketchum was a prolific writer, so it was very well written. And it's also really interesting character exploration of a number of different characters, not just character explorations, but just some things about explorations of some societal behavior. There was, somewhat about Meg, who, she's the one that's being tortured, so she's, of course, the central character in the story that everything is happening to. But and there was some some exploration using of her character, in terms of just exploration of torture, really, and what happens as a result of that. She starts out, she's a smart, pretty young girl. I think she's 13 in the story. Also, got a good head on her shoulders and pretty strong-willed. And you see her gradual capitulation over time under obviously the pressures and pain of this ongoing, escalating torture. And also sacrifice is a big part of Meg's story. But the story was even more about, I think, a couple of other characters. The main perspective that the story is told through is one of the neighborhood kids, David, who I think is not based on a real-life character. But David is probably the most innocent of the neighborhood, of all the kids. And that was scary. So David is, what you would say is the most innocent of the kids involved in this group. And Ketchum does just an amazing job of using his character to explore the malleability of children. And you're faced with this situation of just absolute absurdity that nobody other than the psychotic serial killers would tolerate for a minute. But it could show you what happened with children that would otherwise be relatively innocent children, are so impressionable and so subservient to the pressures of authority figures and fear and just lack of experience, that they can very easily be manipulated into accepting and even becoming complicit in horrific things that would normally not be in their nature to do. And that's what happens here. And you have David, who along with all the other kids, is sort of taken along for the ride, if you will, by this quickly deteriorating Ruth, who they all admire and look up to. And so, and in a lot of ways, the story is a lot about Ruth and an exploration of her, somebody in her, with her kind of lot in life. Ruth is, a single parent. Her husband had saddled her with 3 kids and then abandoned her. And she's now getting older and very unhappy with her lot in life at this point. And this is a pretty good exploration of lost youth and regret and jealousy, that the types of thing what that can do to someone, and the types of behavior towards others that it can drive them to. So this book, and as I said, all the more powerful when, as you're reading it, you keep having to remind yourself that this is loosely based on an actual real story. And so an incredible book all around. It's a 4.5 5-star read. As I said, it is if you can't stomach that sort of thing, then it's not for you. It's not an easy book in that respect. It does go into that subject area in a lot of detail. But if you can stomach that sort of thing, I would highly recommend this. Just a valuable book all around in terms of learning some about the real story of what happened to Sylvia Likens, but also just a very fast-paced read, a very well-written read, really powerful exploration of several different characters and what can happen to them under extreme situations. So, highly recommended. And that's about it. Okay, so thanks so much for joining us today. Thanks for watching. We'll see you soon. If you like this video, please remember to give it a thumbs up and subscribe and hit that notification bell so that you get notified the next time Olive says it's okay for us to upload another video. In the meantime, take care of yourselves and each other, and we'll see you next time.